Now, even as Russia and Ukraine are set to come to the table for discussions for a second consecutive day, the situation on ground remains grim. 9 people have been killed in a strike on a TV tower in western Ukrainian city of Rivne, and one person is reported to have lost his life in a apparent rocket strike on Kyiv.
Denouncing the attacks, UN Chief Antonio Guterres said that Ukraine is on fire and being decimated before the eyes of the world. Talks between Russia and Ukraine resumed yesterday with no progress made on day one. Let me go across to Srinjoy Chaudhary for more details on this. So, Srinjoy, once again, the negotiations between Ukraine and Russia have started. No progress was made on day one. On ground, the situation continues to be the same. In fact, Russia is just moving deeper into Ukraine, inching towards western Ukraine now, which is closer to NATO land also. So the biggest question, of course, is in everybody's mind right now, and that is, what is Russia's end game? Where is this entire conflict heading towards?
Yes, it's a very, very important meeting today. We have to see what really happens. Both sides appear to have different points of view on this issue. What the Ukrainians want is an immediate ceasefire and then negotiations. The Russians, of course, have made an earlier point that they have said that there should be a clear indication from Ukraine that it will not join NATO, it will not join European Union, and so on. Now we have to see how things go. The first thing is that, well, yes, you've agreed upon humanitarian corridors. That is understandable. But the most important thing, probably good for both Russia and Ukraine and the world, is an immediate ceasefire. Is that going to happen? So that's something that has to be seen. And as you rightly said, the battles are continuing. The Russians are moving towards western Ukraine. That was not expected, but that is going on. They are also very close to Kyiv. The idea is to hold on to as much territory as they can, and that can be used as a negotiation tool, is perhaps what the Russians are thinking. But clearly the Russian troops are moving ahead, not just in the west, but also towards Kyiv, also in the south, also in the east. So battles are raging all over Ukraine. The fighting is going on all the time. It's not that the fighting is stopping while the conversations are going on. The fighting continues. That is perhaps the sad part. Perhaps if there were ceasefires while the conversations were going on, it would lead to perhaps a better conclusion.
Right, Srinjoy, also the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar is to speak about the Russian-Ukrainian crisis in the floor of the House today. Do we have any details on what can be expected there?
Well, the Indian position is very clear. First, it was to get all the 22,000 Indians in the Ukraine out, which has happened. Maybe there are 1 or 2 left, but roughly speaking, 22,500 Indians have come out. India has also made 2 very clear points, and that includes repeated statements in the United Nations, including in the Security Council. First, that there should be an immediate ceasefire. Secondly, there should be diplomatic dialogue. That is what India has been saying again and again. India has been abstaining, and that actually is a help in a sense, that because India has abstained, India has been able to reach out to both sides, to Ukraine, to the Russians, initially, of course, to get all Indian students and others back, and also to ensure that the war comes to an end.
Right, Srinjoy, thank you so much for joining us with all those details there. And like Srinjoy was just mentioning, the Russian forces are now closing in, and they are around Kyiv, which is the Ukrainian capital. And this is leaving several families distraught. In fact, my colleague Pradeep Datta gets you this ground report from the outskirts of Kyiv.
These are another visuals of devastation. You can see how Russian missiles have destroyed a vehicle here. man was on his way to back home when all of a sudden the missile came from across, hit this car, and you can see this car is completely damaged. This shows what exactly is going on right now in Kyiv. This was a restaurant, people were playing here, carrom board, and see how the things are lying here. This shows the condition and situation on ground. See, window glass is completely damaged, building completely damaged because the shrapnel of the shell has hit the building, and you can see impact of that. This is not the first building that has been damaged and destroyed. How these buildings are being targeted by Russian troops. On one hand, they claim that they are only targeting military infrastructure. But if you look at the situation on ground, they are targeting civilian infrastructure. They are trying to inflict maximum casualty. They are trying to generate fear. They are trying to hit out their communication system. This is the building. These are the curtains. And see how it is lying here after being hit by a Russian missile. Many people were injured when missile landed here. So not many difficulties right now people in Ukraine are facing. But despite all those difficulties, Ukrainians have decided to stay together to fight against Russian troops.